Right, let's get into the game then. I'm going to leave it to you two to cast. Have fun with it, guys.
Thank you very much, Bacon. Right, Team Flyte and the periodic table, Curly. We know that they do enjoy themselves a good Glaceon ban, and we can see there that they are most certainly looking towards the Glaceon ban into the ban phase. Team Flyte, I mean, their minds are pretty clear and made up, aren't they? Slowbro off the table.
Yes, and actually, since we are seeing that Slowbro ban, I kind of expect to see maybe a Lapras pickup here. Usually we do often see that Defender being picked up, but actually they're gonna pick up the Leafeon, which I am super hyped for, but that is leaving GCCZZ Elemental P with the Lapras and the Urshifu pick. Now we saw them on their Urshifu the last set, and ooh, it was messy. It was very difficult for the other team to deal with that Urshifu, that is for sure. So this is it's gonna be really interesting to watch what happens.
You very much got the new kids on the block, as opposed to the kids who have been around the block a few times there with Urshifu and Lapras going up against Leafeon. But it's how the rest of the draft unfolds, which is most interesting. A9 recently received that buff, super great with the damage limitation and the damage control. Snorlax has always been a reliable defender. Opposite side, GCCZZ's got that Hooper, really great for that movement, for that rotational limit. Mew as well. Swiss Army knife of Pokemon Unite. That's going to be fascinating to see how that works into that particular roster. Rounding out Team Flyte, we've got Buzzwole and Eldegoss. So they're really focusing that hyper damage carry into the Leafeon. For GCCZ, I was worried about that damage output, Curly, but they've got themselves a Dodrio. It's going to be running Floatstone and Attack Weight, presumably running Drill Peck as well. Ultimate maneuverability, Hooper and Dodrio. That's a nasty combination to deal with if you Flyte.
Oh yeah, GCZ has a really difficult comp to have to deal with between the Urshifu, the Dodrio, the Lapras. Those are two huge meta picks. Hoopa, in my opinion, being one of the best supports on the table right now. We talk about it all the time, being able to port your teammates for HP and come back to re-engage into a fight to prolong the fight is incredibly valuable. And then the Mew, we know Mew is very capable of dealing damage. That is a scary team to go up against.
Keep in mind, Mew's also got agility available to it as well, so I'm worried about these team fights. Obviously, Team Flyte's coming in as the #1 seed, and they've certainly got a good enough roster, a lot more experimental, I would say, than very much what we've seen of the last couple of months, which is definitely what GCZ has gone for. So really, I think this is kind of going to be a litmus test, I think, for the likes of Leafeon, for a potentially new evolution of this meta, where we're looking at these super damage carries as opposed to previous months where it's more been about double defender meta.
Oh yeah, we've seen so much double defender. Well, before in the past, we were seeing a bunch of defender meta. The Blastoise acting as an attacker, which honestly, I think Lapras is kind of taking that spotlight away from Blastoise. I think the kit from Lapras is capable of doing the same thing that you would see a Water Spout, Rapid Spin, Blastoise doing. But of course, Lapras, you don't have to rely on those evolutions, because we know Blastoise is not really that great until it gets to Blastoise. And with Lapras, you don't have to struggle so much to get those power spikes, so that you are a valuable player on the team from the get-go. So yeah, really excited to watch a Lapras at play here.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. It is so much more valuable in the early game, whereas with that Blastoise, sure, it's in the hyper carry territory, but you're waiting a long time to get that thing online. And sure, Hydro Typhoon is pretty great, but we do love the Choo Choo Lapras Express, and we do love an early KO, that's for sure. The Buzzwole taking down the Doduo, of course, that's a really important KO for my liking on this one. The last thing that you want is that Doduo picking up the attack weight, getting plenty of scores early on the doors. The Dodrio coming online super early, but as much as we're talking about the top path and how good they're doing up their team Flyte, on the bottom path, similar vibes. That Leafeon already up, and the soul of the not just the Solar Blade, but like just the general scary factor, the fear factor heading into these clouds. It is palpable, taking away every single cloud, I believe, before the Orange team could even blink an eye.
Wow, Team Flyte is doing so good with securing that farm for themselves, getting that experience. Looking at the levels, they are kind of doing slightly better with levels, but this is still very early on, so there's plenty of time. Now, I did notice Team Flyte getting 2 KOs on Team GCZ. We mentioned the Duo, which was an amazing pick, but also the Lapras too. We saw the Lapras going down on Team GCZ. So yeah, getting those picks on those very, very strong Pokemon on their team is going to be really huge for Team Flyte to have an advantage here in this early game.
And hey, let us talk about Nayat as well. Literally the one role that I didn't cover was Speedster, but you want him on an attacking sort of Pokemon, and you can't really get more attacking at the moment than with this Leafeon already in engage onto the bottom path here as Team Flyte 82 up to 8. The Dodrio attempting to pick off it with Tri-Attack, not the Drill Peck that perhaps I was expecting, but they're not going to be able to find that Eldegoss. The Leafeon was there to cover quite nicely, and all the while, that Buzzwole on top path continuing to build up the stacks of their own. Team Flyte managing the first 2.5 minutes beautifully.
And it's looking like Hoopa's gonna port some of their teammates up into the top lane to apply some pressure up there before we start with our first set of objectives, which is spawning in about 20 seconds. A GCZ, of course, having 4 teammates up in the top lane are able to take out that tier 1 easily with no problems at all. And of course, having a Hoopa on your team, you're able to go to and from the lanes as a unit. The way that we're seeing them move together right now, this is why Hoopa is so valuable. They're able to play the map wherever they want.
Oh, Shifu going in. There's the A9 to cover, but not covering enough. The Leafeon is down. Important here as GCCZZ have at least got themselves a reset in this team fight. The Reggie's still going to be huge. And Peak on the top path as well. They've taken down that first tier zone. Could be important as they'll look to rotate back up to Regieleki. That's it. They've got to be able to get through this team fight in the first place. The Super Swole Slam. The Buzzwole doing so much of the heavy lifting. Now it's about the Reggie stealing it up. Oh, look at the knockup. The Hoopa's managed to steal it away anyway. A huge knockup on BNJ. The Mew Solar Beam misses. Buzzwole with more KOs. Flexing. They're not going to be able to get the score into that bottom path though, because reinforcements are on the way.
The hyperspace portal steal on that Reggie was actually crazy. That's not what I expected to get the final secure. But checking out the levels here, Team Flyte is ahead with scores and also ahead with levels, not by too much, but they are up there, that is for sure. And we are definitely seeing why they are the #1 seed for this tourney. Of course, they're gonna apply a bunch of pressure to that tier 1 and take it out. Not a huge overcap, but it's not really that big of a deal. I think just taking out the tier 1s is gonna make it a lot more difficult for GCZ's Hoopa to be able to maneuver their teammates to and from the top and bot lane.
I'm right there with you. Surf's up, dude. Heading onto the tier 2 zone. Very aggressive posturing here from GCCZ. It's 4 versus 1. Make that 4 versus 3 now as Eldegoss and Leafeon enter the fray. Still getting scores down via the Dodrio. I'm wondering whether they've oversold themselves a little bit here, GCCZ. They've got the Hoopa high space. Oh, lovely punch away. The Lapras is caught out of dodge. And look at the Dodrio go. Not going to escape those fists.
That Buzzwole is putting in the work. That is for sure. As Buzzwole is on the hunt, trying to get as many KOs as it possibly can. But of course, the Urshifu is going to shut it down right there. We are possibly gonna fight for this Regieleki into the top lane. It's looking like GCZ is trying to get into position for that, but Team Flyte not really worried about it too much. I think they're just gonna take the defensive side for this one and prioritize getting set up in that bot lane for the bottom Reggie. The bottom Reggies are a little bit more of a priority compared to the Aleki, so they're gonna apply pressure. They might even take out that top tier 2 while Team Flyte gets ready for this bot objective.
I am GCZZ. Sign me up to whatever training program you've got going on. Beautiful communication between top path and bottom path split. They got that Regieleki onto the tier 2 zone. They collapsed it. Done. Meanwhile, Hoopa Unleashed manages to steal away a rapidly descending health bar on that bottom Reggie. They're able to pick that up as well. Team Flyte, super impressive in the first 2.5 minutes. Let us not take that away from them. And certainly Yuri on this Buzzwole in particular has been a standout player. Can they get any more KOs though? No, they cannot, because look at this Totrio go. 3 KO streak, doesn't matter, shrugs it off, runs away. GCCZ, they have roared back into this game.
Yes, they definitely have. This has been such an incredible match already. We are seeing amazing top tier plays coming from both sides here. It's definitely obvious why these two teams are here in the semifinals together, facing off each other. Incredible two teams here. They might try to pressure this bottom tier one that hasn't even been touched. Urshifu getting in a free dunk there. It doesn't look like Team Flyte really wants to give them any experience here. Of course, letting go that tier one is going to allow them to get some more farm. They have tons of farm on their map to get those levels that they need to bring it on in the raid pit.
It looks worse than it actually is for Team Flyte, although the level game is starting to favor ever so slightly GCZZ, and we're starting to see some really boisterous moves. We saw that really aggressive tier 2 zone attack on the top path, and now we're starting to see invasions into the forest. They're going to try and rip this Team Flyte. I don't blame them. A Reggie Alecki push onto that top path will give GCCZ something to think about, and now they are going to have to think hard about what their next move is. The bottom Reggie is spawning Curly, and it looks like they're going to attempt to rip this as well.
Ooh, smart call trying to rip this. They know that Team Flyte went after that Alecki, assuming that they're going to get in position for Ray. That leaves GCZ an opportunity to split their team up, take away the Reggie Alecki, and also take away this Reggie steal, which is going to be absolutely huge going into this Ray fight.
They got that attack and special attack buff. That is the third Reggie that they have secured. They have the level advantage. How is Team Flyte going to manage this situation? Certainly not well if their main defender, their front line, is frozen away. They heavy slam away from the solar beam. That's good enough for the moment. Meanwhile, Eldogos giving them shielding, missing on crucial healing though, at a time when you really can be missing those shots. It's almost like a Wild West shootout here. Both teams looking across each other from the Rayquaza, north and southbound. Meanwhile, we've got World that he's waiting for the call to get some double scores on that bottom zone. He's hoping to say, okay, when's the engage happening? Or do you need me back here now? He is going to move back in. We're seeing that power nap come out from the Snorlax. Surely it's now or never for Team Flyte. We're entering the final minutes, all kicking off, and it's a Leafeon with the first KO onto the Urshifu. Massive here. We've got themselves a Swole Slam looking to solo away this Lapras. Not going to get much good there though. Health bar starting to drain on Team Flyte. Leafeon with a smidgen of health, but the Solar Beam takes out 2. Massive turnaround here from GCCZ. The Mew popping off. 3 down for Team Flyte. It all comes courtesy of that little pink Mew.
Huge knockouts coming from GCZ. They are getting rid of Team Flyte one by one in this array pit. There you go. The LD going down. Snorlax coming back up though from respawn. We have Leafeon trying to look for a sneaky little back cap, but of course Urshifu waiting for the sneaky back cap there. Good call coming from that Urshifu, and Hoopa may just, Hoopa actually doesn't even have their Unite move. I was thinking maybe they could, Unite, go Hoopa rings unbound for their teammates and, get some more dunks in, but it's looking like that is gonna be game. GCZ taking the win with a Rayquaza still in the pit.
Quite frankly, Team Flyte seized up. They had the opportunity to force the team fight, and maybe they were just a little too wary of the level situation. GCC's, they didn't put a foot wrong, Curly, and so I don't blame them for being quite passive when it came to that final team fight, but sometimes the wrong action is taking no action at all, and I feel like they would have had a better chance if they just thrown the Hail Mary rather than what eventually happened, which was they kind of poked, they kind of prodded, they got picked off, and then it just completely unraveled. More Pokemon being added to the roster. Oh, the tragedy. It means that we've got to think harder, the teams have got to think harder. And we've got Inteleon coming on July 4th, the American Pokemon, everyone. Well, I'll tell you what is going to happen here is Team Flyte's going to ban away Urshifu. So they have ultimately opted for the target ban, high train outside, and not necessarily the Hooper that we were expecting. Meanwhile, GCZ have gone for the Slowbro ban, which means that Glaceon is available, and they are going to lock that in. One of the most rampant attackers in solo queue at the moment.
Yes, that is going to be a very strong attacker to pick up, especially if they go with I believe it's is it Icicle Spear?
Icicle Spear, indeed.
Yes, yes. Now that that move is no longer bugged anymore, players are free to use it. So I think that's what we'll expect to see from that Glaceon, and that's gonna be really huge. Now we are seeing a Lapras being picked up from Team Flyte. I think obviously a great pick. If you can't get the Slowbro, Lapras is definitely next best thing. And GCZ getting their Hoopa again.
They had to choose one. And if I was to choose one between the Hooper and the Lapras, as much as I love Hooper, I think Lapras is the correct call, especially if they're going to back this up with a Clefable. My goodness me, what a front line. That is terrifying. Locking in the Delphox as well for that damage control system. Yuri switching it up. Unless we see a Buzzwole in this last slot, I imagine Nighthat's probably going to head on to the Delphox here.
Oh, please don't pick Mamo.
Oh!
Oh, I don't know how I feel about this relic. Listen, I love Mamo. Believe me,
we know this.
It's my only my only gold badge. As much as I would love to see this Mamo in action, it has just not been doing very well in this meta currently. Like, it's just, it doesn't have sustain, it doesn't have lifesteal, it can't survive as well as a Lapras, as a Trevenant, and we're seeing two defenders on the side of Team Flyte too. So that, and Clefable as well. This is a very tanky team that is going to sustain. I think this is going to be a really good counter against the fact that GCZ does have that Hoopa, so they are also going to be very healthy for team fights and engagements. So, oh my goodness, this is going to be such a crazy matchup.
Peek the so let's see, Muscle Band, Focus Band, EXP share as well. So we're going to split path here. I mean, surely Glaceon's heading into the central area. That is almost a given, which means we see Doduo heading onto the top path. Interesting. Really interesting. What I'm worried about with Flyte's situation, though, is they've still got that A9 to deal with, and the freeze from A9 was so crucial in a lot of team fights for GCZ. Kind of has an understated role, but stuns and freezes in this game are everything. The more that you can get off in 1v1s or in 5v5s, the better you are. And somehow I don't see, like, yeah, it's a solid structure. I get it. It's almost like an old Roman turtle formation, but how much maneuverability do they have in that? You got your Delphox on the back line. You got Mew a little bit further back with the Solar Beam pops. Is that really going to take down a Ninetales in one go?
We'll just have to see, especially when it's going to be paired up with that Mamo. Mamo and Ninetales are going to have such a great early game. That is going to be a hard early game to deal with. There's going to be so much CC coming from that lane. Now, let's see. They do, in fact, have the Ninetales and the Mamo together, but Mamo's actually going to be jungle invading here, trying to take away those buffs from that Delphox. Now, Delphox with those buffs is going to be a menace to deal with, but it's not going to have it. It's orange above, that's for sure. This is what Mamo is really good at. It has a very great early game. It can be such a bully, especially with the CC that comes from it. So it's going to be really huge. And I didn't even put together Relic. They have 3 ice Pokemon.
They do. They are feeling chilly when it's getting mighty hot. Certainly here in the UK, that is for sure. And together, combined, they have the power of friendship and freezes. Plenty of scores. A 23 goes down. Another 4 as well. No evolution into the Piloswine just yet, but I am so scared of Hog Rider back here on that Glaceon, already up to level 5, looking towards level 6 pretty soon as well. We don't even see that Clefable online from Nurzox. Really scary moment here as GCC threaten to blow their opponents out the water before this game's even really begun.
Yes, this early phase has been really great for GCZ. And yes, the jungle invasion. Oh my goodness. The Clefable going in, trying to take some buffs. Poor little Clefable hasn't even turned into a Clefable yet. And that's what they're trying to do. Also got the Mew trying to take some buffs as well. Oh my goodness. This is not something that I would want to deal with. That is for sure. Of course, Glaceon's coming in, gonna shut this down immediately, taking out the Clefable, and they should get this Mew right there.
Oh, it feels like kids sneaking down stairs, stealing the cookies out the cookie jars, and then the mum catches them red-handed. Oh, that was a shutdown from GCZZ. And to be fair, although the scoring situation isn't necessarily too egregious at the moment, peak those levels, folks. Level 9 for the Glaceon already, 6 and 7s across the rest of the board. The highest level for Team Flyte is Mew on the level 6. Clefairy's still level 3. This is getting out of hand rapidly.
Clefairy's getting bullied just a little bit in that top lane. Poor thing is just trying to find some farm so it can turn into a Clefable and actually be able to heal their teammates. Now, yeah, looking at these levels, this is not good. You got Glaceon at a level 9 already, getting its Unite move at 8, which is already used. You got Ninetales coming up on their Unite move, Dodrio level 8, and almost a Mamoswine online as well. Just compared to the other team, GCZ is eating so good. Of course, Glaceon gonna get the secure on that Regirock, and they are, of course, gonna apply pressure here on the tier 1.
That was a heroic attempt from Nihat to try and steal away the Regirock with the Mystical Fire. Paid for it big time. Meanwhile, on the bottom, on the top path, I should say, they're attempting to go for the Regieleki, but Piloswine lies in wait. Meanwhile, they're looking to collapse that bottom path completely. GCZs, once again, the communication between both sides of the field of play here is extraordinary. Alex Kidd just waiting, not going to be able to break through the water pulse. So a little bit of joy here for Team Flyte. Is it actually going to hit the zone, though? Here's the A9 and the Dodrio in support to defend it away.
Yeah, no, they are definitely going to get rid of that Regieleki so they don't have to deal with it and not have their top tier 1 touched at all. GCZ, they're just not bothered by anything at all. They're doing so great in this first half of the game, but Piloswine might go down here, even though they're trying their hardest to try to CC the heck out of Team Flyte, but it just wasn't enough. Though Drio coming in with their Unite move, meep running into the enemy team, trying to take down this top tier 1, and they might be able. Oh, it's going to be set up for a pretty decent overcap.
Oh, what a stop there on the Glaceon. Brilliant work. It was the basic attack, but oh my goodness me. Goes the Glaceon, and down goes the Mew and the Snorlax. If you're Team Flyte, you got to go into damage limitation mode and XP gathering mode ASAP. You've got to find some more XP to put into the global pool here, whether it's a concentrated effort down onto the bottom path or whether it's what they're doing here, sticking together, clumping together like we were expecting this roster to do from the outset. Something's got to go their way, otherwise, Curly, nothing is going to go their way. Finally, a KO in their favor.
Yeah, they definitely need to get some KOs here. That's going to be huge for Team Flyte. And also, I'd like to point out the levels. This Glaceon being, for a while there, they were 3 levels ahead of the highest level teammate for Team Flyte. So GCZ is eating really good. This was some amazing pressure from Team Flyte on the top tier 1, but unfortunately, they're not able to really do much with it. GCZ ready to shut them down, getting the 2 KOs on the Mew and the Snorlax. Now, there is a bottom Reggie, not exactly sure what it is, but it's looking like they're slowly making their way, mostly Team Flyte making their way over here. They do get the KO on the Dodrio, so this is going to be a good opportunity for them to play the opposite side of the map, get the objective, and maybe take out that tier 1 from GCZ.
There's that Hooper rotation. Down goes the fireworks. It's a Regi, so it'll certainly be good for the XP side of things. Guess what? You're not getting it because Hog Rider is back and he's hungry for plenty more Regis. By the way, that Regieleki hit on the top path doesn't matter because they smell, they smell that sweet, sweet victory on the horizon. Do GCZs. Another KO picked up for World, who has been, well, he's been attempted to be shackled down, attempted to be locked down in place. Irrepressible. They're down to just 1 zone, Team Flyte. 47 points against 317 Curly. We're a minute and a half away from Rayquaza, but we are starting to get into the territory where even a Rayquaza won't be able to flip this.
Yes, and I'm really curious to see if GCZ is going to try to pressure that top tier 2, because I believe there is going to be another Reggie Alecki, and if they can get the secure on that, that will force Team Flyte to prioritize it, ignoring the Ray, or splitting up their team rather, because they will have to answer to an Alecki going towards their main. But not sure if that's going to be the case here. They are going to get some picks on Team Flyte there. We do have the Lapras going down, which is really going to hurt Team Flyte here for those team fights. Mamo getting away into that hyperspace portal, and oh my goodness, that was a nasty double KO coming from the Ninetales.
If the contract was placed on the table, we're halfway through signing the signature, folks. This does not look good for Team Flyte, even if they were to throw everything and the kitchen sink and the aforementioned mothers and cookie jars at this Rayquaza. I doubt it'll do them much good. They simply don't have the sustain. And just look at the available XP to pick up here on the map through wild Pokemon, through the major buffs in the central area. It's just not available to them. And it's not been available to them from the start because of the invasion strategy from GCZs. This would be one of the bottle jobs of the year if GCZs lose this from here.
It's looking like Team Flyte is going to take their win condition and try to, it looked like they were trying to rip, but I think they were just trying to pull in GCZ for the team fight here. Unfortunately, Delphox going out on their team, which is going to be a huge pick for GCZ there. Hoopa Rings Unbound, trying to apply that pressure there. And it's the Ninetales getting the secure on the Rayquaza. And there are 4 teammates from Team Flyte knocked out. There is nothing they can do to stop what GCZ is doing.
The Lapras just staring into the sky, thinking, oh goodness, this is over. That kind of sums up this series. We were expecting plenty from Team Flyte. GCZs had an answer for everything. They walked into that examination hall and they got to see the question paper before it was placed in front of them just minutes later. Of course, the Glaceon was always going to be good. How was it not? But 16 assists for the Hooper, 16 assists for the A9, 13 assists, and plenty of excellent disruption from the Mamazwine. To say that the Dodrio was the least influential Pokemon on this side is saying something. GCZ's so deserving of that grand final spot.